From the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know at the News You Trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution, I'm Joel Norwood with your Friday Ag News and Markets as we round out the work week. The United States has stopped live cattle imports from Mexico. That's after they've detected a new world screwworm outbreak in a cow in Chiapas, Mexico. While the outbreak far from the U.S. border, experts are stressing vigilance to prevent the pest's entry here in the United States. New world screwworms, known for their maggot-like burrowing into wounds, can severely impact livestock and even human health, we're told. Symptoms include irritated behavior, the smell of decay, and fly larvae in wounds. Iowa State entomologist Robin Prusner highlights that any U.S. outbreak would prompt swift USDA action to eradicate the pest. Producers should contact veterinarians immediately if they suspect an issue. A proven method to combat New World screwworm is the sterile insect technique, or SIT. Sterilized male flies are released to curb reproduction. That strategy was successfully used in Florida in 2016. Overall, with millions at stake for livestock producers, U.S. authorities and Mexican officials are telling us they're closely monitoring the situation to safeguard agriculture and animal health. Well, we know 2025 going to be a tough year for equipment manufacturers, and I've been expecting that for some time, but the latest numbers showing that could be particularly rough. Steep declines in sales as Deere & Company has closed fiscal year 2024 with a net income of $7.1 billion. That's down from the $10.2 billion figure in 2023. And the company forecasts further declines next year with an expected net income between $5 and $5.5 billion. They're citing reduced sales across its precision ag, turf, forestry, and construction equipment sectors. Other major players facing similar challenges. Case IH parent CNH Industrial reported a 20% drop in ag sales for the first 9 months of 2024. AGCO, which makes Fendt and Massey Ferguson, saw third quarter sales plunge about 25%. Across the industry, tractor sales have fallen 13% this year overall, with small tractors under 100 horsepower seeing the sharpest declines. Combine sales also down considerably, 23% year-to-date, according to the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. Layoffs and production cuts continuing in that sector, and overall, the outlook remaining grim for ag equipment manufacturers. In a rundown of your other farm news, a Kentucky federal judge has blocked expanded worker protections under the H-2A visa program in 4 states. That's Ohio, West Virginia, Alabama, and Kentucky. Plaintiffs argue the Department of Labor's rules could lead to unionization among foreign workers. Meanwhile, a separate injunction in Mississippi has halted the Department of Labor's worker protection rule nationwide. The American Farm Bureau, a key plaintiff, has called the rules overly broad and unlawful. Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall emphasized the importance of fair treatment for workers while defending farmers' rights to a manageable regulatory framework. Elsewhere, Mexico threatening retaliatory tariffs after U.S. President-elect Trump proposed a 25% import duty on Mexican goods. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says that could harm shared industries such as agriculture as well as automaking, and echoes trade tensions from the 2018 USMCA negotiations. And President-elect Trump has named Jamison Greer as his pick for the U.S. Trade Representative. That signals a tough stance on trade with plans to address deficits and enforce tariffs again on Mexico as well as Canada and China. In other news, as we look to the year ahead, what are going to be some of those major topics that we'll be hearing more and more about? Well, one of them is undoubtedly going to be artificial intelligence, and that's exactly what our own Dale Minio is chatting about today.
Joining me is Andy Folto. We are at Bayer Crop Science. And Andy, I've been asked to talk to everybody that I talk to out here somewhere in our company about the role AI will play for farmers as they make future decisions. Have you guys talked about this as a company? How are we going to boil this down so producers don't feel overwhelmed?
I would say we have. And after I look at all of this data that farmers have brought in, and I work for FieldView within Bayer. We're a digital ag platform that helps people bring data from whatever piece of equipment you're collecting data on. We can bring it into FieldView so you have all of that in one unified place. But going through 10, 15 years of data is a challenge for farmers. And that's why we see a lot of our farmers share data to someone, a retailer, an agronomist, because they want help going through that. And where I see AI playing a really pivotal piece of that conversation is just making it easier for a farmer to get access to the data they need much faster.
Andy Folto, my guest from Bayer Crop Science.
And thanks, Dale. As always, stay tuned to OhioAgNet.com for more farm news and information. And stay tuned here as we'll be back with markets after this. Did you know soybeans' #1 customer is animal agriculture? That includes Ohio's dairy farms. High oleic soybeans have long been highlighted for their use in human food, but it can also be a benefit for dairy cows. Research shows it helps boost milk fat concentration and milk fat yield. That means more profitability. Soybeans, feeding the industry that feeds us. Brought to you by Ohio soybean farmers and their checkoff. Let's take a look at how ag markets are closing out the week. New crop corn here on Friday, 7 1/4 cents up to a price of $4.23 per bushel. March corn closed $4.33, a nickel higher today. January soybeans 3/4 of a penny higher to $9.89.5, but March beans dropping a penny to $9.96. Wheat for next July down 2 cents to $5.63 3/4. Markets brought to you by Seed Consultants, simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com. At the Merck, December live cattle dropping by 3 cents to $187.98. March feeder to cattle $1.33 higher to $258.63. Hogs for December 33 cents down to $82.08. And we're seeing the milk stay put, no change today, closing December at $18.52 for Class 3. More farm news and markets online at ohioagdet.com. I'm Joel Norwood. Thanks for tuning in.